Guys, first we're going to start with a bag of rice. You can use jasmine rice or sticky rice. The key is no matter what rice you use, make sure that you clean the rice. Take the actual dry rice, put it in a bowl of warm water, squish it around a couple of times until you get all of the starchy whiteness from the water. You'll still see a little bit of starch, but as long as you get it as clean as possible, that's great. Then put the rice in a strainer, so like this, and let it drain. After you put it in a strainer, what I do is transfer it to my aroma rice pot. As you can see, the rice is almost cooking. You want to use 1 cup of rice and 1 1/4 cup of water. That way you're not really over watering your rice. Let it cook completely. This pot was only about, I would say, $17 at the most at your local Walmart. Not expensive at all. Works great, does the job. All right, guys, as far as what you're going to use to roll your sushi with, what I got is from my local international store. I got a sushi bamboo mat, only a few dollars, but you can also go on Amazon to get a bamboo mat or a bamboo mat kit that will give you everything from the sushi mat, chopsticks, and all of that good stuff. And then I have my Glade Cling Seal. I get the Cling Seal brand simply because it goes on the front and the top and the bottom of the bamboo mat to eliminate stickiness of the rice. Today I'm gonna do a California roll. So I'm gonna use some Yum Yum Sauce Ranch as my actual topping on that. I'm gonna use some poke sauce in one of my rolls, which would be the Salmon Roll. I have four avocados, which I probably will only use 2. I also, it's very important not to get a cream cheese spread. You want to get a double cream cheese, which means that it's in a water content. And this particular cream cheese is my favorite because it's easy to cut, but I'll show you that later. You also want a couple of cucumbers, and I'm going to be using some English cucumbers, which is great to use in your sushi. The meats that I'm using today would of course be tuna, and you always want to get salmon stage tuna. You don't want any old tuna or any old type of salmon, simply because those tunas are prepared a different way. The salmon is prepared a different way that is not consistent with making sushi. So you want to always make sure that you get the right fish. I also have some great crab sticks. I like the bigger ones. I kind of like do a slice to them, so you'll see that later in the video. So we're going to be doing a salmon, a salmon and a California roll using the crab sticks. All right, so the rice is ready to go. As you can see, the rice looks great. It's fluffy, it's not hard, it's not overcooked. And what I do is I actually take the rice, because you do have to give it time to cool off. You don't want hot rice burning your hands. So what I do is I take the rice and I put it inside of one of my metal bowls. And then I let it sit for about 5 minutes. Okay guys, now that I got the rice all in my metal bowl, you can use a metal bowl or you can also use a wooden bowl. Some people prefer the wooden bowl, but I prefer the metal bowl over the wooden bowl. No really preference for me. But what you do is once you get that rice in there, you make sure it's gonna be hot. You make sure you use 1/3. I actually use 1 1/2 cup of rice. And this is what we're looking at now. And then what I did is I take 1/3 cup of rice vinegar. The rice vinegar is going to give you that extra consistency that you need and flavor that you need in your rice. And I pour that all over my rice. And then I mix and let it sit until it cools down a little more. All right, guys, now I'm gonna show you how to cut your meat. First, let's start with the tuna. As I said, you have to definitely get sushi grade tuna, so be real careful about the tuna that you purchase. I got this tuna from my international store in my local neighborhood. And what I do is I cut it in slices. I actually will cut it this way, and then I cut it again, and I will continue that process until I have nice long cuts of my tuna. With my salmon, usually when you buy the grated salmon, and I do apologize. I like to rinse off my knife and clean it with every time I change a fish. I would clean my knife to make sure, or use a second knife to make sure there's no transfer. And as it sits on the cutting board, I keep them very separate with space in between each. With my salmon, I would take this particular one, and this is of course salmon grade for tuna. I will take the tail off. Normally it would have an extra tail, which is fine because that just gives us a longer cut. And I would take it and I would actually cut it the same way as the tuna in slices. And I'll have several long slices, and I'll do the bigger part the exact same way. And some of them will be a little bit thick. If they are thick, cut them again, because you don't want it too thin as you lay your sushi roll, but you do want it thick enough and thin enough to lay flat in the sushi. I'll rinse my knife off again. And now I'm going to cut my imitation crab meat in slices as well. These are bigger ones. In some of the international stores, they would actually sell these in a thinner type of slice, so you don't have to cut them. You just kind of cut them this way than the long way. But I got this from one of my favorite seafood stores because this one has an extra little bit of sweet to it that I like. So I decided to use these. If you use a thicker cut crab stick, you'll cut it down the middle. And with these, you'll see that you most likely would have to cut it again once you cut the middle part. And that will give you 4 nice sized slices that you can lay in your sushi roll. All right, so now I've sliced both my avocados, and as you can see, I got my avocado nut right here. I'm gonna sit that one to the side, and I simply took the avocado and I sliced it from hemisphere to hemisphere. And then I popped it open, and this is the results that you get. When it's time for me to make my actual first sushi roll, which you'll see me do, is I'll take the avocado and I'll slice and scoop and put it into my sushi roll in a line form, the same way the meat and the vegetables would be laid. All right, now we're going to take our cucumber, and what I did is I used my English cucumber. They usually come in plastic. So I took the cucumber from the plastic, and then I washed it thoroughly with cool water, dried it off with a paper towel, because sometimes you have the little film on it, little pesticides on it, and to make sure that it does not impact the actual cucumber inside, I like to rinse it off. Then I cut both ends of the hemisphere of the cucumber off, and then I take my peeler and I actually peel. Some people don't peel their cucumbers, and they like the green on the actual cucumbers for their sushi, but I just don't like it. It kind of gives it a different flavor for me. So what I do is I actually slice my entire cucumber, make sure that I don't take too much off the cucumber, because closer to the skin is where you'll find the crunch, in my opinion. And the middle of the cucumber's hemisphere with this is usually a little softer. So you're gonna get your crunch on the outside of the cucumber. Now that the cucumber is all nice and clean, what I do is I actually start slicing it in the middle. And if you got a straight cucumber like I do, that's a whole lot easier than a little curved cucumber. If you get a curved one, just try to follow the curve and stay in the middle. After cutting the actual cucumber in half, I'm going to cut it again in the middle. Now, myself, I do not like the seeds. The actual sushi roll is basically better without additional seeds in it. So after I cut it, I actually take the seeds and I kind of take my knife and put it across the top of the cucumber just to take away the seeds. And as you can see, it actually comes right off. I'll do this with all the other parts of the cucumber, and we'll be back. And I am back. As I said before, I like to use the double cream cheese in soluble liquid. And this is the brand that I like to use, Bitch Gavin. and it's a double cream cheese. I got it from my international store in my neighborhood. And as you can see, this particular cream cheese is not like the spreads. The spreads is not going to work very well in your sushi dish. You also want to make sure that there's also coverings on your, as you can see, I had the metal and then they put the plastic. They make sure that your cream cheese is definitely protected. When you look inside, you see there's a little soluble water there. That's what you want to see, because that means you got a really good cream cheese. It's going to cut perfectly. What I do is I actually take 1 bar of cream cheese, and you do have to use a little water because it will continue to stick to the knife. So what I do is I get me a little bowl of water. It doesn't necessarily have to be warm. I just use a little lukewarm water, and I always keep a paper towel on hand. And I start by taking the actual cream cheese and slicing it in half. And as you can see, it immediately sticks to the knife. Anytime that you have that, you can just wipe it away, dip it in water, and wipe it with the paper towel. Then, when you want to start by cutting it, put a little water on there, cut it. That's your first bar. You'll be using these at least 2 bars at a time in each sushi roll. All right, so let's talk about how to open and protect your bamboo mat. This sushi bamboo mat I got at my local international store. It was only $2.99. Great price, but just like I said, you can go to Amazon. Sometimes you'll get lucky and find them at Target or at Walmart, but it is rare to find at those stores. But definitely find your bamboo mat. What I do is when I take it out the package, I give it a good rinse, and then I paper towel it dry. All right, so now I'm finished drying my bamboo mat, and you smell that great bamboo fragrance with a real bamboo mat. It's great. And now I'm going to cover my bamboo mat with a dry surface. You want to lay down your cling seal or any plastic of your choice. You don't have to necessarily be the Cling Seal brand. It's just the one that I prefer to use. I will lay my bamboo mat, and then I will start to cover it. I cover it on one end. You can go all the way down. I prefer to do it mid to mid. Then get a nice tear. Flatten everything out, and you're ready to make sushi. Yeah, guys, there's one thing I forgot to mention. Sometimes when you're actually putting your plastic wrap on your actual bamboo mat, sometimes that opening on the side can kind of come loose, especially depending upon how big of a mat you're working with. I'm working with a fairly good sized mat, so I'm gonna turn it the other way as well and double wrap it. And that way all ends are covered. We actually have it completely compact inside of the cling wrap. All right, guys, so now I am ready to start rolling. And I actually wanted to just tell you about the sushi nor that I'm gonna be using, which is just basically roasted seaweed. I actually like to use this particular product. It is in Japanese. However, it just says roasted seaweed laver or lavar. Not sure how to pronounce that, but this is what I'm using today. You can use any kind of seaweed. There's other seaweeds that you can get from Walmart and Target, and actually use that particular seaweed. This one right here is great. I like the size. It's a nice size, so it gets me those big egg rolls that I want. Other times I actually use a different size seaweed. Sometimes I use Ocean Halo, and this particular seaweed product I get from Walmart. So if you go and get this particular type of organic sushi nori, then you can actually make smaller rolls. But I'm into big rolls today, so we're gonna go ahead and start making some big rolls with my favorite sushi. All right, guys, now just a small tip. Some people like to use their hands to make their sushi rolls. I hate the feel of sticky rice in my fingernails, so I decided to use cooking gloves, non-powder cooking gloves. And what I do is I actually just rinse the gloves off. I place them on my hands, rinse the glove off, Make sure they are secure because the sticky rice is definitely sticky and will stick to the gloves. And I fill up just a small bowl of water, lukewarm, not too hot, not too cold. And I actually take this and set it aside. And I would actually dip my hands in the water if I feel like the sushi is becoming sticky on the gloves. Just a tip. Okay, again, shiny side, rough side. So we're gonna first add our rice. Wetting my tips of my fingers. Starting from the middle, pushing the rice flat, grabbing a little more rice. I don't like to use a whole lot of rice, just enough rice to cover all of my seaweed. And a few more pieces. Add a little more water to my hands. Rice get a little sticky. All right, then we're going to sprinkle sesame seeds. You can use white or black sesame seeds, whichever one you would prefer. Then you're gonna take your seaweed and flip it. Lay it flat to your shiny side, and we're gonna add our vegetables. Cucumber. Cream cheese. Try to keep it in a straight line as possible, but kind of build it as well. I'm gonna get my fresh crab sticks. And lastly, avocado. All right, now that I have everything on, I am going to, I just realized my sushi roll was not in the right position, so I am turning it. Bundling everything back on. And now I'm going to use the roll as my barrier to roll everything in. I'm gonna hold my ingredients and close it up, and as it rolls, I'm going to roll the mat and give it a little bit of a squeeze. Then, as you can see, the roll is coming together. I'm going to pull it up again, hold, and if you have some corners that close up, just go ahead and pull them out. And then I'm going to roll again, squeeze, but not too hard. I still want some air. And then I'm going to close it up and roll one last time. And you should come out with a very nicely rolled sushi roll. Now I'm going to take it to the edges and kind of clean that up by closing up the roll and stuffing the insides back in. Taking this end to the other end, rolling it back up. And as you can see, I got my avocado and my crab sticking out. I'll push it back into the roll. And then my roll is almost perfect. Now it's actually time for cutting. Now we're going to cut our sushi roll. I just take water, take it to the tip, let it roll down the ends. And then I'm gonna start in the middle. And then I'm gonna get some more water because it gets pretty sticky. Just take it to the tip, let it roll down the end. I'm gonna cut the half in half. Get some more water. This half in half. Get some more water. Cut this piece. And every time, as you can see, I'm wetting my knife. Giving me more water. All right. Now, if you have the end piece sometimes look a little weird, so I will put that in the middle. And then I will take my other pieces. And add them all around. All right, and I will serve that with a side of, I use Kikkoman soy sauce. Oh. For dipping. And there you are. California rolls. Now I'm gonna make a salmon roll. Wet my gloves with a little water. Get me a nice ball of rice and start covering my wrap, rough side up, shiny side down. And this is going to be my tuna roll. For the tuna roll, I'm gonna use fresh tuna. I'm going to use cucumber, cream cheese, and of course, you guessed it, avocado. All right, now that we have all of our ingredients, all right, now I am going to start my roll. And of course, I like to kind of push my ingredients in a little bit to make sure my roll is tight. And then I'm going to bend it in. And one more time. All right, so now that my roll is tight, I'm going to start my cutting by, of course, grabbing me a little water, cutting down the middle. A little more water, cut on the sides. And then make those have more halves. Couple more cuts. And now I'm going to lay them on a plate. Right now it's time to, let's plate our salmon rolls. Now mind you, if we have a little bit of a mistake, like this one kind of got stuck on the knife, you can always put those on the side to disguise the problem. Just add the rolls. And we got one more coming. And for this one, I am going to sprinkle just a little bit of Yum Yum Sauce Ranch. I bought this particular bottle of Yum Yum sauce from my local international market, but I do think that this can be purchased at other fine stores like Walmart and any other maybe small grocer. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shake. And kind of gizzle some Yum Yum sauce and serve with a little bit of soy sauce. Enjoy. All right, now I'm going to make what I call an ultimate sushi bowl. So instead of using rolls and rolling up the actual sushi itself, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a bowl and add all the ingredients into the bowl itself. So first, I'm going to add rice to the bowl. And it's only not a lot of rice. We don't want too much rice. I'm just gonna add like a couple of handfuls of rice. Of course, it is still the sticky rice, so we're going to break it up and spread it over the bowl. Then you'll see on the board what we have here is cucumber, salmon, crab meat, imitation crab meat, avocado, tuna, and cream cheese. We're also going to add Yum Yum sauce, sesame seeds, and we're also going to break up a couple of leaves of seaweed. So first, let's add the mixtures as layers. We're going to add half of our cucumbers, half of our crab meat, half of our tuna, half of our salmon, half of our avocado, and the stickiest one would be, of course, our cream cheese. It will give us a little bit of a trouble to layer, but it lays down pretty nice. Then, after we get that particular layer, we start all over again, adding more cucumber, the rest of the crab meat, the salmon, the tuna, the avocado, and the leftover cream cheese. Breaking up the seaweed is really easy. You just take a piece and you close it up, and then you kind of break it away, giving yourself little pieces. Seaweed is great to hold sushi, but it also brings tons of flavor to the sushi. And you want to make sure your sushi bowl is not lacking any of those ingredients or those great exotic flavors that sushi brings. This is one. And because everything was layered double, you can always layer everything one time. But this is an ultimate sushi bowl. So we have 2 layers of each ingredient. That makes it the same for the seaweed. You do need 2. And because we didn't put it in the middle of the layers, because we don't want our seaweed to be soggy. When you tear into your bowl, you want to still get a little bit of that crunchiness that the seaweed provides. Just grate it up as fine as you can. So after you make your seaweed as fine as you possibly can, you can always run your seaweed through a blender or a mixer or anything that can break it down more. I kind of like to feel the crunch in my mouth when I'm eating my seaweed, so that's the reason why I do it with my hands. Then you're going to cover each end of your seaweed bowl, your sushi bowl, with the seaweed. And then you're going to top it with some of that wonderful yum yum sauce. Ooh, I'm running out. And then I like to top it off with some of those beautiful, delicious sesame seeds. And there you go, ultimate sushi bowl.